Okay, so this is something I know everybody wants to know about: how to run Facebook ads on a budget. So when you're starting off, it's actually a good idea to use a smaller budget, because if you dive straight in with a budget of £500 a day, the chances are you're going to be wasting your money. You're going to be throwing it at things, at assumptions, without having proven them. So it's actually a really good idea to start small and scale up. It's definitely worth investing in your growth as you start to establish what's already working, but it is actually a really good idea to start on a budget. So I'm just going to give you a quick walkthrough on how to do that and how to most effectively make use of your budget and get the best ROI and the best data out of it, so that you can establish how to scale and how to move forward with confidence, knowing that you are actually getting a return on the investments you make. So from some of the other videos that we've done already, you'll know about the really powerful tools that Facebook's got available for us, like building audiences from people who've already been to our website, building lookalike audiences of people that have close affinity with them based on the ridiculous amount of data that Facebook's got available to it, and also through hyper precise targeting based on assumptions and things that you know about your audience already. So it's really important, just on a kind of side note here, it's definitely a good idea to start to think about affinity relationships that people would have with other things, other interests that Facebook might not necessarily pick up on. Lookalike audiences are fantastic, as you'll see as we go along, but there's a hell of a lot of value in understanding crossover interests in your own mind, which Facebook might not necessarily be able to identify. I've had a hell of a lot of success with this, with brands that I've worked with and with my own brands, identifying similar niche interests that audiences are going to share an affinity for. Anyway, cracking on with this for now. You should have already set up a purchase lookalike audience if you've got your pixel in place. So this is an audience of people who are very similar within a sort of 1% range that Facebook identifies to people who've already checked out on your website. Another good audience to test at this stage is a lookalike audience of people who like your page. So if you don't know how to make these up, go and check out the video on how to create custom audiences. It's really easy to do, and once you get that out of the way, it's going to make your life a hell of a lot easier. Then based on your audience analysis, you want to put together one or two, or even more depending on what budget you've got, a few interest-based audiences. So this is going to be audiences based on geography, demographics, interests, purchase behaviors, salary levels, whatever it is that you've established that you can identify about your audiences that check out. Then you're going to test all of these audiences against one ad creative. The reason you want to test it against one ad creative is because you're not spreading your budget over lots of things at the moment, and you're establishing the thing that you're testing is the audience and not the ad itself. So then once these are all running up, how are we going to actually establish which audiences are effective and which aren't? Because at this stage, if you've got a very small budget and you've got quite an expensive product, it's likely that you won't be getting checkout straight away. So it's going to be really difficult to get any valuable data about who's checking out based on these ads, because you won't have enough checkouts. So what are the things you can do? You need to be looking at optimization metrics like CPM. So CPM is the cost per 1,000 impressions. I'll show you how to look at this in a second. Racking these ad audiences up against each other, you'll be able to immediately identify which CPM is better, which audience is performing better than the other ones, and then double down on efforts. Another good optimization metric to look at is CPC, or cost per click. So this is the price that you're paying for each customer to actually click through to your website. So if you spend £5 and you get 5 people to click through, your CPC is £1. Easy as that. And again, once you've racked all these audiences up against each other, you'll be able to really quickly establish which audience is performing best. Relevance score is huge. So this is something we've touched on in other videos so far. Your relevance score is the rating that Facebook gives your post based on how well it's been received by the audience you're pointing it at. So with all these different audiences pointing to the same ad, we can see how relevant that score is to each individual audience. So this is why it's really powerful just to test one thing at a time. Also percent video views. So if you're running an ad which is a video, then you might want to track what percentage or how many seconds the average user sticks around and views your video for. So you may be paying a higher cost per click, but if you're getting people to stick around longer, they're showing more interest in your product, then you can establish that it's likely that you're just paying more to reach that audience, maybe because they're in more demand and there's more advertisers bidding to reach that audience. So once you've established a couple of these audiences that are performing nicely for you, you're going to want to shut off the rest and double down your efforts on the audiences that work. So we'll take these two audiences, and now what we'll do is we'll start to test different ads against the audience. So then at this stage, we're testing the ad rather than the audience itself. We've established audiences that work nicely, that respond to our message. Now we want to shift over and test the ad creative, different styles of ads, whether it be different placements, carousels against videos, against canvases, and then we can start to get an idea of what creative and what kind of message works best for our audience. Then once we establish this, again, take a look at which ads are performing best, which we can shut off on getting the best results, and again, we can double down efforts on the things that are working. This process of constantly doubling down and trimming away the fat is the real key to success in this style of advertising. So let's take a look at this in action in one of the campaigns that we've got at the moment. So this is a pretty small test that we've got going. We're working on £10 a day. You can work on less than that. Again, it's entirely up to you. It comes down to what budget you can afford to spend and how long you can afford to wait. The general rule of thumb is that the faster you want to go, the more you're going to pay. You can get results slowly and pay less money, or you can get results faster and pay more for it. The key to this advertising is going to be finding your sweet spot where you're spending enough money to get valuable data without breaking the bank, and you're not affecting your ROI too much. So as you can see, we're spending £10 daily on each of these different audiences. So we're down within ad sets at the moment. And you can see already, this has only been running since yesterday, you can see already that per link clicks, we got quite a stark difference. So this first ad set is based on people who already like our page, so it makes sense that we'd be paying less per link click because they already have a relationship with our brand. The next one is friends of people who like our page. We've also put in something which works really nicely for us, which is Birchbox, because we know that they're an affinity audience with our product, and we're getting a slightly higher cost per click here. And then we've got a third audience, which is lookalikers within 5% of our existing page likers, and we're getting a similar cost per click there. So cost per click, that's one of the metrics we can look at. If we scroll over to the right as well, obviously you can see percentage of video views watched there. So as mentioned before, even though we're paying more per click here, we are actually getting quite a nice video percentage viewed here compared to the other ad sets. So that's another metric to look at. And then if we just go to add some more columns here, and we're going to search for CPC and CPM to compare these up against each other. So, and here we go. So CPM again is really low on the page likers, slightly higher on the affinity audiences and friends of page likers. So then you just want to establish what your objective is, what you really want to track, and which metric works for you to establish that people are interested in what you're doing. We can use these video percentage views to create a new audience of people who've interacted with this particular ad, and we can shift on from there to take these customers down a funnel. And the better we define those people and establish that they really are interested in our brand, the more laser targeted we're working and the less we have to pay to fundamentally make conversions in our stores.